Hi everyone, it's Az here from HeelvsBabyface. Look, particularly as a YouTuber, and I'm not going to lie, I know the vast majority of my audience and the vast majority of people that are going to watch this video have no love for mainstream game journalism. But this isn't something which has just happened. This isn't something that we just decided to take a stance on. It's because game journalism has let gamers down for years and years now. They lie. They very much are anti-consumer. They become, for the most part, particularly when you look at things like Polygon and Kotaku and trash like that, they're activist sites. And they're always trying to take an opposing viewpoint, always trying to take an opposing viewpoint to the customer, resulting in a butting of heads. However, they will pander to the mainstream companies so that they get their review copies, so that they get their trips to their companies and they get shown around, or to special events, special parties, all of the access that it allows them to. However, we've seen many times that they will quite easily turn around and bite the hand that feeds them as well, particularly when they don't invite them to somewhere or don't do something. Collider is a prime example of this, when they weren't invited to the whatever it's called, that Star Wars theme park that I'm never going to go to, Galaxy's Edge, and you had Christian Harloff having the biggest teddy tantrum live, saying he was busting his ass for 5 years as a Star Wars fan. Have you ever heard anything so unmitigatedly pathetic in all your life? Not too much more. But a games journalist, mainstream games journalist, I believe that Eric does work for Forbes. This is his bio. I write about video games, TV shows, movies, and other fun stuff. Fine. Occasionally, I show up on Twitter to join in all the fun. Now, I think Forbes, personally, are better than most when it comes to reporting on stuff or giving opinion on stuff. I think Paul Tassie's pretty decent. I think recently he's had some pretty, what I would class as pretty poor takes, but I always found, I tend to find for the most part that he's pretty decent. But we get this tweet out from Eric. This was put out about 6 hours ago, okay? From the recording of this video. Disappointed that Sony has decided, for no stated reason, to decline to provide me with The Last of Us 2 review code. I've reviewed a lot of PlayStation games over the years, and I'm definitely a little baffled by this. Oh well, them's the breaks. I'll buy it and review later. There is a big problem here, right? I don't know if it's lack of self-awareness. I can understand the frustration as a games journalist. You need the review copy because you want the review to be ready ahead of everyone else. You want the review to be up there on release day or whenever the review embargo is lifted. But you have to also understand you have privilege there. YouTubers can't do that for the most part. I do understand that there are YouTubers, bigger YouTubers for sure, that will also get review copies. But people like Angry Joe, for example, he will sometimes get review copies and sometimes not. But even when he does get review copies, he takes the time to create his video. And so his reviews won't come out on the day of release. And you'll often find that his reviews for games will come out 2, possibly 3 weeks later. However, they will still get millions of views. It'll be pretty rare for an Angry Joe video review not to get into the 7-figure mark. And some will, blow up and get multiple million views. Why is that? Because people trust Joe's opinion on the game. Not just the opinion, but they're also coming for the entertainment. So there is other aspects of it. But they respect his opinion. And I respect Joe's opinion. I don't agree with what he says all the time. In actual fact, lots of times I don't agree. But I do believe that he comes from a place of truth. I don't believe that he has an agenda in his reviews. And that's coming from somebody that was a little disappointed with him that he didn't come to the channels that had been struck so we could provide him with proof that it was Sony. But because I think he is, for the most part, a very fair guy. So a journalist coming on to Twitter and posting, I didn't get my free review copy, you're not going to get a lot of sympathy. Again, I don't know if it's a lack of awareness, but if you thought you were going to get sympathy, oops, oopsie doopsies. Because a lot of people position the mainstream game journalists as anti-consumer, because that is the reputation that has been developed over the years by these companies. And that's why they're dying off. And that's why people are coming to YouTube for their reviews. They want somebody who doesn't have an agenda. They want somebody who will give their honest opinion about something, and they won't be driven by what they can or cannot receive from companies. So needless to say, as Alan Partridge would say, he has found himself with a lot of backlash. Now, it starts off fine. The quartering asks him, could it be if you or Forbes, because that's who he writes for, reported on the links? Even if I go here, Mark Kern. I got a lot of time for Mark. I really respect Mark. Games companies have always used access as a power card to influence journalists. I guess Sony are going after anyone who wrote about the leaks. Now, Eric responds to that by saying, I did not write about the leaks or spoilers other than to acknowledge that it happened and that I was personally avoiding spoilers. There is a slight weirdness to this response, in as much as, Eric, you're going to get an advanced review copy, so you're going to find out what happens momentarily anyway. Would having a spoiler affect your opinion on the game? That's just a question. You could say, yes, it would actually. Okay, fair enough. Even though you're going to be reviewing it ahead of time before it's even released. So you will know all the spoilers prior to the game coming out regardless. Alright, fine. So, he gets pommeled. There's no denying that he comes under some significant strain with response. And some of them are fair and some of them are not. Now, Jeremy here, Geeks and Gamers. Sony's abuse of the copyright system isn't about me. It's about everyone. If you took 5 seconds to do some research, you'd know that. People like you are the problem. But keep kissing ass for those free review copies. Very, very blunt by Jeremy. But what he's trying to say is, why didn't the mainstream media report on the Sony DMCA copyright abuse? They were all silent. Conspicuously silent. And why were they silent? Well, let's not bullshit. Okay? They were silent because they didn't want to go against Sony. They were silent because they knew the access that Sony would allow them. They were quiet because they knew that if they spoke up, if they reported on this, there was a good chance that Sony might blackball them, blacklist them from access. And when that happens, you're bought and paid for. because you're doing what Master wants you to do. And you are not objective. You are no longer objective in any way, shape, or form. Because you have been manipulated into silence. You are guilty by association. There is no denying that. But Eric tries to defend his point of view, and it just doesn't get any better, because in actuality, he starts to dig himself a bigger hole. Now, he goes into a couple of explanations as to why he didn't cover, but it doesn't, to me, ring true. He says, on this one particular, each time I cover something, I try to be fair. I usually get a lot of positive reception, but when the next controversy arises, no matter my record, I'm instantly accused of being a shill, etc. by people who don't know who I am, just because I write about games. Why would that bother you? You are meant to be, unless you want to tell me any different, an objective voice. If you're not an objective voice, then you have to say, I'm not coming at this from an objective standpoint. So, who cares about your feelings? Why do you care about your feelings? You should be concerned about the quality of the work that you put out. You should be concerned that what you have provided to Forbes to print is your best work and that you're proud of it. Why would it bother you whether people like you for it or dislike you for it? My channel, for instance, is called Heel versus Babyface. It's wrestling terminology. Heel means bad guy. Babyface means good guy. Why? Because I'm both. I talk about the good things. I talk about the bad things. And I know that I'm Marmite. I know that people either love me or bloody hate me. Does it sway the content that I create? No, I remain true to myself. This is what you as a journalist should in theory be like. Who cares what people think? Who cares if you're liked or disliked? Now, I could fully understand that if an article came out and it had a massive negative reaction, that you could say, why did it get this negative reaction? Why? And then you could look into it. Was it my take? Was it just the people who came to the site? Was it poorly written? But nobody's going to love you just because you're a games journalist or not a games journalist. And who cares if some people call you a shill, because the people that will matter will know that you're putting out objective good work. Your company will know that. People who are more objectively minded will know that. So who cares? Let's go to another point here. And this is, again, where he'll lose me completely. Because, to me, he's being disingenuous. And when you start to show yourself as disingenuous, it means you're full of shit. You're full of shit. And you can't garner any sympathy. Because it looks like you're playing a game. And when you're playing a game, nah, you get everything that you deserve. People are like, how dare you? Oh, sorry, Greta Thunberg. How dare you avoid controversial subjects like this Last of Us 2 DMCA issue? I'm like, hey, do you see my Twitter feed right now? This is not healthy. This is what happens when I cover these issues time and time again. The point being, one starts to wonder, why bother? I could just write about games and TV shows because they are fun things that I enjoy. It's more positive and less mentally and emotionally exhausting. You're a journalist, according to you. In other words, you aren't helping convince game journalists to cover these topics by screaming and swearing at them every chance you get. This is not a smart strategy. In fact, it's a deep selfish one because it actively discourages coverage. Be nice because you're hurting my feelings. Eric, you're coming across as a fucking snowflake. You're coming across as a baby now. Wow, I'm not covering it because it hurts my feelings. Even though I write about video games, TV shows, movies and other stuff for Forbes. But wow, you're hurting my feels. Who can take you seriously when you say something like that? Who can take you seriously? So let's go to this one. And this is the kicker for me. This, to me, explains the whole thing. Another tricky issue with covering these sorts of takedowns is the fact that once a video is taken down, you can no longer see its content. Fair enough. It becomes a huge he said, she said thing. Not necessarily, no. Or even if it is, there's still plenty to call upon, which we'll go into. Certainly Sony won't want to be transparent about it. As a journalist who is supposed to cover things based on fact, with objectivity, this becomes far trickier than, say, making an angry YouTube video that requires no fact-checking, no request for comment, etc. Let's try and dismiss YouTubers as legitimate sources. Covering YouTube issues in general is difficult because there's a lot of noise to signal going on, and it's very tricky to determine which sources are reliable. This is one more reason I miss Total Biscuit, because he was someone I could trust, and Total Biscuit would have 100% have covered this. But what you just said, Eric, is I can't report on this. But if Total Biscuit reported on this, then I would have. I don't have the courage of my own convictions. I don't trust what I personally see. You could write an article quite well and good. Sony, DMCA, copyright strike, multiple YouTube channels on the verge of deletion. Because we were posting all of the imagery of the DMCAs. We were posting up all the copyright strikes which our channels had and copyright claims. And because Sony were whacking 3 of them up in some form or another, 2 strikes, 1 claim, 1 strike, 2 claims, they were quite clearly indicating, we know 3 strikes and you're out, and we are basically holding your channel at ransom to shut up. The point is, none of us shut up. And we fought back. You could have easily just said, Sony, DMCA takedown a whole bunch of YouTube channels today. Now, because the videos have been removed, we can't see the content of the videos. However, the YouTubers are claiming that they contain nothing but fair use material, while Sony are claiming that they don't, and that they have copyrighted leaked material from a source which leaked the game earlier. Boom! I'm writing your article for you. I mean, I know you tied it up a bit and stuff, but that's how you would objectively report on it. And then remember how quickly Sony said, hey folks, we've found the person. We've found the leaker. We've found the person who did the leaks. They've got nothing to do with Naughty Dog, nothing to do with Sony. Please go away now. And every mainstream channel then reported on it. All the media came out then. Oh, Last of Us 2 leaker found. Bye. Nothing more to see here. They showed their true colours. They showed who the master was. The master cracked the whip, and all the good little bought and paid for pieces of shit, including Forbes, jumped to the beat of their drum. You could have put an objective article out. So now that the leaker would be caught, and you know that none of the YouTubers would have anything to do with those leaks in regards to how they were put out there, just that they reported on them. And if you know fair use law, which as a journalist you should, then you'd know that you can still utilize material prior to it being out in the public domain as fair use. You chose not to. You chose not to because you've said it might hurt my feelings, and you've said it might make me feel a bit about myself, my own personal feels. Then why are you a journalist? Why are you a journalist? If you can't hack it, why? I just want to write stuff about what I like. Good. Then you have to accept the consequences when you don't write about major news stories in the gaming world, because it was major. And look how quiet everything is now about the leaks. It's as if it was all a big long con. Nothing to do with a Sony dev at all, or a Naughty Dog dev whatsoever. Of course it fucking was. Just unbelievable. And I think there's just one final thing. I know this has gone on for a bit. This is the, I think he might have added a couple of tweets since we did this. Here we go. This is the one. The paranoia on display in the gaming community right now is staggering. Sorry, folks, not every journalist is going to cover every story. That is fine in as much as Quake 2 gets DLC after 24 years. I'd totally get that. But this is a massive, major gaming story, and the mainstream games journalist media remain silent. Cry more about not getting a review copy. No one gives a shit. Hope you enjoyed the vid. If you did, do give it a thumbs up and also subscribe to the channel. Follow me on social media and YouTube for live streaming. Links are in the description box down below, and I'll be back with some more stuff very soon. You take care. Bye for now.